Today's topic, episode number 5 of Bimcast, is Lifecycle BIM. What does Lifecycle BIM really mean? What do the various actors mean when using this term? Is there a mutual understanding to be found? What kind of societal potential lies in better and more effective ways of exploring the perspectives within Lifecycle BIM? These are big themes, but we will explore this topic by inviting 3 guests in the studio. In fact, they're already here, each with their very own perspective. So Linda Bystrøm, as a major Norwegian owner of a large bulk of existing and future buildings from the Norwegian University of Life Sciences, welcome.
Thank you.
Anett Andreassen is from Statsbygg, the Norwegian Directorate of Public Construction and Property. They construct and manage state-owned buildings throughout Norway and abroad. Welcome.
Thank you.
And finally, Halvor Jensen from NTI, who contribute to the national digitization strategy by ensuring that good digital tools are available for all. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, what's Lifecycle BIM? Everyone's quiet. Anett, you get to start.
Lifecycle BIM, yeah, it's not easy to explain in like 2 minutes, but I think it's to look in the Lifecycle BIM in the perspective of information on the building as an asset throughout the life cycle, from the idea of the building until the decommissioning and when the building is finished. So throughout all the phases, because today we have a lot of focus on the design phase and the building phase, but we need to focus on the information throughout the life cycle and also in the maintenance and operation phase much more than we do today.
That was pretty good. I think you mentioned information and capture the information. For me, that's data, it's knowledge, it's decision basis. So it's a lot of sort of those things you need to capture. But Linda, do you have anything to add to Anett's call it definition of Lifecycle BIM?
Well, yes, because I think that for those of us who are actually trying to figure this out, we think about every day, what do we really mean? And that's part of the work, I think, to actually find a definition that works for you. But for us at this moment, Lifecycle BIM now is trying to find the value of BIM for us as an owner. So I'm thinking of it a little bit like that. So you have to, if you believe in digitization and you believe that will help us as building owners in the job we do as providing buildings for users and so on, then BIM will probably be part of the solution, or I'm quite sure it will be. So Lifecycle BIM for me is trying to figure that one out, how to utilize BIM for us in the operations and maintenance phase. And
how far have you gotten in figuring that out?
I think we're getting there. We are working quite hard in trying to spread the message and inform internally, at least in our department who are operating the buildings, what BIM is. Because I really believe that in order to find out what value it has, you have to expose it to people, and I need to hear from those that work with it, what can this do for you? Because I don't have the answers. So that's where we are. We are exposing, and I'm hoping to get feedback, and we have also explored the possibilities that we can have in communicating with users on a conceptual stage, but still. Yeah.
That sounds like a really good advice. Expose people to BIM. Get them going. Halvor, you have written actually an article about Lifecycle BIM, so you should be really knowledgeable about what this is.
Yeah, I tried to maybe provoke a little bit to start things going, and that it worked because I had a lot of feedback on that, so that's great. And I think from my perspective, it's I agree. First, I agree with you, but as a vendor of solutions and software vendor service provider, I see it from another perspective, I think, and I think it's
before you start seeing it from another perspective, could you take the microphone a little bit closer to your mouth so that we get a clearer sound?
Is that
Very
better?
Good, thanks.
Yep. I think it's a lot about contracts. They need to be changed. We need to take in consideration that the contracts we use today, they don't work if you have a Lifecycle BIM perspective. I think it's about processes and people. If you continue to work the way we do today, the processes we have today, if people think this in the same manner they do today, nothing will happen. I mean, see that in projects also. I think it's a lot about technology, because we don't have the technology today. In my article, I say that we can deliver it. We are actually ready, but not if we should do it from today and deliver everything today. We are not ready. But if you start to make the demands, then we can deliver it over the next 6 to 12 months, I say. And I think we can do that, because the software industry has proven many times that we can deliver if the demands are there, but we can't deliver based on things that maybe happen. So we need to have the demands. And as you say, I think it's about connecting, using data, maintaining data, and maintain a digital twin over the life cycle of the building.
You raised your hand, Linda. Yeah.
Yeah, I think because I have an IT background, and I've been working in the construction industry for 10 years or so. And I think what is said here is quite interesting, because in the software industry you're working towards a more agile way of working. So you have some demands, you work on them, and then you see after 2 weeks, okay, how did that go, and you change. And that's like how that industry is working. And that's now supposed to be, helping an industry who is used to setting all the facts and the way it's supposed to be in year 1, and then you have the result in year 4. And we know that's not a very good way of working, but in order for the software industry to start helping the construction industry, you have to also think about how you run projects and how you set the demands for services and so on. So I think it's a challenge for us also as owners to dare to go that walk with the software industry, to say that, okay, we have a goal, we have to define that goal, and we have to work together with those who are used to walking that path and trying to find a good solution that takes some time and might change course as we go.
But again, then I think it's important that we be involved. The software industry need to be involved, and we had a great hackathon a couple of weeks ago together with Helse Sør-Øst and Building Smart, where a lot of the industry was invited, and we worked together, find solution, discover solutions, and if we can do that, more of that, I think we can go quite fast. But then we need to be invited in. We need to be a part of the decisions, because I know we can bring some value to the table.
Halvor, you mentioned contracts, and I think that's a very important part. We were talking, our last episode was about education, and that episode somehow ended up talking also about contracts, how important that is. And I know Statsbygg have taken great sort of initiatives and involve lawyers in order to sort of think new about this. But I think this is a very important issue that we need to tackle. I got an association when you mentioned this about agile versus construction industry. And in my mind, I've been thinking that it's very important to design and build sort of digital before you start building the actual building. So if you imagine that you design everything is planned, all is set digital, and then you push a button and you start building or construct it. That's not very agile in one sense. So should we perhaps also think about the iteration on the construction side, or is that just you have to sort of live with that once you've done the digital design, that's it, you can't change anything, and you have to just build it? It was an interesting sort of thought.
I think that's the way we have to start thinking, because today it's so lined up. It's like you get from A to B to C, and all the stages, but we have to think more in circles so that we actually can have more iterative co-working and join in more actors in. So you have to, because then we can use the information in a total different way than we do today, because you build information in one stage and deliver it to the next in the process, but but it doesn't fit the process, because in the process you have to develop together throughout the project. and that the model today isn't fit for that. So we have to use the information and build it up along as we go, and then we have to think agile, and you have to go back and say, okay, is this really what we wanted? And then you have to do it more in details along as you go, not start with the details, but design it and then build it up. Because today we do a lot of projecting or designing, and then the entrepreneurs and the contractors get it and they redesign it a lot. We do a lot of the processes twice, and that's not efficient at all.
But again, you come back to the contracts, not because the contracts we have today, they are not designed for a process like that.
I'm not, because we have cooperatives and models, and we can do it. But then again, you have to change the culture, you have to change the mentality, you have to have sort of like understanding of the process. And parts in the process that I am actually delivering something in the process because there's a customer on the other side who needs this information for something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but can you get that understanding and get that way of working in a contract that is based on it? I don't know what it's called in English, the total entreprise, the Norwegian word of it. Can you do that in that contract? And that's the most common way of doing contracts today.
That depends on what you. I think maybe it's possible if you. Depends on what dialogue you have with the entrepreneur and the contractors, and how you put up the goals for the project and the understanding on the goals of the project. But of course, I totally agree. We look into best value procurement and we look into new kinds of contracts because we believe in that. But I think it's not just the contracts. It has to be a setup of a lot of things. We need to change the culture. We need to have a null knowledge. We have to work together in a different way than we do today.
Yeah, I also think it's possible. And one of the things that we feel at the moment in our organization is, okay, how do we involve the user in this early digital construction that you mentioned? That doesn't really have anything to do with contracts. It's just how do we involve people, and what kind of process should we run to build a digital building? Does anyone have a good idea? Well, please let me know. Then I'm thinking that would probably be a very nice place where you can mix agile way of working with the construction industry.
I'm struggling with this. It's very cheap to design digitally everything because you can make mistakes, you can fix them, no problem. And then you sort of, if you think this or do this all the way, you have everything you need to do, or everything is decided. There's nothing new to be decided. All the solutions are in place. You know exactly what products you're going to have. You know exactly when you're going to build it in order to optimize the flow, whatever. Which means there's no, from the finished digital design, there is no agile work. It's just, here is what you're going to do, just do it. Are we losing something if we do it that way? Because I thought we would gain a lot by doing it that way, but I'm not quite sure.
I think we had just had a discussion before you started on the time of the construction phase. Because what we see today is that as long as the construction phase is so long, you lose the moment, you lose the possibility to innovate on the last products that are put in. So if you kind of like design all the techniques, all the last details in the building in that early phase, then you lose the possibility to innovate and to put new technology in. So that's, if we can manage to short down the construction phase, yes, I agree. If we can build like they do in other countries, like in Asian countries, like in a couple of months, or 3 or 4 or 5 months, yes, we could do that. But today, the construction phase is so long so that the innovation will kind of like be gone.
So if you manage to shorten it down because you have planned it very well digitally, then it's okay because you don't lose that innovation. But if you stretch it out in 4 years, there's a lot of things happening in between. Mm-hmm. And
there's a risk that you actually put all technology in the building. And we don't want to do that.
Risk that you put new things in that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So there is another sort of theme here, and you started with it, I think, Anett, with this longevity kind of thing. From the very beginning, you started thinking of a building through the design, through construction, through maintenance, operations, and recycling of materials, and maybe an historical archive after it's gone. There is a lot of information processes. So what's missing there today?
Again, I think it's part of this to understand the next stage in the process. Because I challenge too, and I challenge the entrepreneur and the designers to say, what if you actually build this information not for yourself, but for the operation and maintenance team that is supposed to actually use the information? And that's not a perspective today at all. They don't. It's like when the operation documentation is supposed to be delivered, it's like, okay, we do it in like the 12th hour, and it's like, okay, let's just get it done. And that we have to change, because we have to say that, okay, let's start with the finish. Let's start with the end and see what information do all the users, like you're so into, Linda, what information do they need? And what information do we need if we think like a decommissioning phase in the building? If we want to take the building apart, what information do we need then? And that's a total different start in information construction. And I think that's what we have to do.
Tenders?
Tenders. Public tenders, yes.
Were any of them Statsbygg?
No.
Good. You're doing good.
But we don't
They
have.
have not been there yet.
But we don't have the answer, because that's what we're kind of like experimenting on now. It's how to build a digital twin. And that's where you say, okay, the technology is there, but it's not totally proven out, so we test it out. So we have to do some improvements in the technology to make the information flow, and to see how can we make it, because it's not just how to be agile, but also how to make it flexible. So then it's just not like we should have one software partner and that's it. We want to kind of like be flexible in how we can use the information. And I think that we need to do some developments in that technology, so that we can actually have the digital twin in life cycle perspective.
I also think that we should be a bit careful about this BIM word, because it's a little bit alienating, and because it has been used for 10 years in the construction industry, focusing on models, that's the picture people have in their heads. Whereas if you talk about digitization or information, then you kind of have everyone with you right away, because you can read it in the regular newspapers, and it's a term that kind of makes sense. Even if everyone don't know what it is, really, you know that it's a good thing that we have to do. And then we as professionals in the industry know that digitization in the construction industry, in most cases, equals BIM in some sort, mostly because of information, like you say. But so I think we have to remember that if we focus on only Lifecycle BIM without the whole digitization thing that is going on in society, as for us of owners, maybe we make it harder than it needs to be to involve owners. And yeah.
I think so too, because I think it's more of how we build a digital model of the building, and that's not just the BIM.
No.
That's much more, because that is how we actually can connect all the information from an object in the model through a operation management instruction, and through the financial systems and the HR systems, and kind of like make that flow. That's what gives us the value. So I totally agree. I don't talk much about BIM at all. I talk about the digital twin and how we actually can use the information in the processes, and how we can support the processes and support our solutions throughout the life cycle of the building.
In one way, I think it's kind of shocking that the BIM authoring tools out there made by huge companies have totally ignored the quality of data. They've been 100% focused on the looks and the visual aspects of things, and how you can like make a wall this, and when you connect it, blah, blah, blah happens. But when you sort of hand over that information to the project, the data there is just, you can't trust it. There is no way to trust that data. And how come sort of the big companies that can actually make a big change are not putting all their efforts into getting that data in a high quality manner? That's a little bit surprising to me. Do you have any sort of insight as a reseller?
No, I don't think I have, but I agree. But again, I think isn't it a part of the story that the focus has been so huge on the model? Everybody has talked about the model. It's years since the first discussion with people, top management in Autodesk around information, but it's no demands out there for this information, this quality information. It can be done in the software. All the software vendors can do it. Autodesk, Graphisoft, they can build in this information. Maybe not in a good open BIM quality, but it's possible to do it. And we see that some countries have a strategy around using the native format. Then it's easier. One of the challenges we have is that we use this open BIM format, and it's a challenge because we convert from a native to an open source. But I believe it. Again, I believe it's around focus, around understanding, around what the owners need, and when the owners don't know it themselves, how should the president in Graphisoft or Autodesk know it? I don't know. I think it's a part of the whole story. We need to figure this out. We need to understand it, and we don't have the answer today.
But it's a good point, because both Statsbygg and NMBU, you are saying that let's start at the very end where you need the information.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do you know what kind of information we need? Are you able to put a clear requirement on the contractors or designers what you need? Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I've tried to keep it at a very, very minimum level when we ask for information. We would like more, but we've tried to keep it at very minimum level, and even that is very hard.
Why is that very hard?
Yes, I agree.
Why is it hard?
What I'm thinking sometimes when I hear, or not sometimes, I've heard many times that one of the problems with IFC is that it does not transfer parametric informations in model. That's something you hear all the time. And then I'm thinking, as a building owner, that's not a problem for me at all. Why do you worry so much about the parametric design? Because when I have a window, it looks like it looks, and I don't have any need to stretch it in any directions. And the other issue about compatibility is that it's difficult to translate 3D information, that and this, between software. Well, I don't care. I want the information to flow, and that's just simple data. So I think what you're saying, that the focus has been on the difficult part, the 3D part, which is of course extremely important in the construction phase and so on. But for us, we just want the result. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that, but you should be able to do the information without being stopped by all the difficult 3D things.
But why, you say you try to require like the minimum pieces of information. Why is that hard?
That's a good question, because I also don't know the softwares. I'm not a modeler, so I cannot, when we don't get the information, even though we ask for it, and we are told that it's difficult and so, and then I have to talk to someone who knows and tells me that it's not, just keep on going. But that's what you meet. And I think also meet from those that projected.
Yeah, the designers.
Thank you, designers, yeah. And I'm sure that they probably didn't learn this part, because they've also been focusing on just the geometry. So it's just people, and as simple and as difficult as that.
But I think what you do is what you said earlier, to show the model and show the digital thing, the twin, or what the part of the twin that we are, to the users, because that makes another understanding. Because our operation managers has never seen a BIM. They have never used the model, and they are used to like having loads of information papered in PDFs, in a file structure. So they don't, we have to help them open this box and see what are the possibilities, and make them tell how should this travel be? Which information do they really need? But we have to involve them, and we have to put a user aspect on the development. And the user aspect should not be the designers or the construction industry, but it should be the operation and maintenance people. And that have never been done, I think. That's my statement.
Just a comment. I think that's it's kind of telling, because nobody's really thinking lifecycle BIM. You're thinking, I need to help the architect design something for the design phase. That's it. Or I need to make sure that there is some kind of data out on the construction site. That's it. Or I'm a facility management system that just want to help the facility management guys. I was talking to somebody yesterday. I said it takes almost 1 year to get data into the facility management system before you can start using it. 1 year of punching data. That can't go on.
and no, it can't. And again, it's possible to do it in another way. Even today, we can start today. We don't need to wait. And it's a better way. Using the BIM server, putting information in the BIM server when the process is going on, the construction process is going on. It's a better way than we have today. We can agree on that. It's not the perfect way. It's not the way we will see in 5 years maybe, but it's a better way. Then you will have it on a digital twin. You will have an IFC model, and you will have information there. But again, when you come back to information, we must remember that you talked about PDFs. It's still PDFs out there. We can't get, if you should have information in a model, you need to have the information. And one of the problems we have today is the databases from all these vendors of building objects. Up till now, they have been only on PDFs. We haven't had the possibility to connect the information. Today we have. So the whole industry is going through this digitalization process, and then the opportunity is there to make it this better. And again, if you go back to the IFC format, it's just the last years that we have been able to connect information to the model. It hasn't been able before. We couldn't do it. Would like to do it, we couldn't do it. So today we can. So I think it's also around that. You need to the systems need to evolve together with the demands from the industry.
You go with that.
Yeah, I think like what you're saying, I completely agree. And I sometimes use the word in our organization like I don't have to remember it or know it in English, but you have a verksted, a shop. We have painters, and they have a shop, and we also need a digital shop in our organization. And maybe we need to include some software vendors when we construct. So that, because I really believe that everyone in the industry like this, they want to do it, but you have the money, you have the time, so you do what you can and need to do. But if you have maybe a digital designer or a software designer as part of the project that can help you and walk the path with you, maybe we would come a little bit further. It was just a thought. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just commenting it because the kind of like another track on this, but I think there still shall be like PDFs and papers, or like not everything should be digitalized in databases, but we have to have the possibility to connect the information. And that's again like not everything should be modeled. It's like we ask now for paperless construction phase. That's the demand we put in new contracts now, and that doesn't mean that you have to actually model everything. But we wanted information digitalized and connected through the model so that we know that the information is trackable That's kind of like the most important thing, because today it's so, the information line breaks so many times, and that we have to stop, I think.
I think it's fantastic that you as a public client just are able to demand such high requirements in the sense that you're pushing everybody forward. And I think that's really important, because then people are changing themselves. Because I feel there is an attitude in the construction industry where it's not a lot of willing to sort of stretch a little bit and take the next step and innovate and do stuff. One example I keep mentioning is in a sort of a meeting where everyone is there, and the architect is sort of, it would be great if we could have a little higher ceiling in this area. And the technical sort of entrepreneurs or technical construction guys around would just go, nope. And I was like, there is no willingness, not even to discuss it a little bit to see if there is a way to maybe make that happen. It's like, no, can't be done. We need this. And I thought, okay, then it's no reason or no wonder we're sort of struggling to move things forward.
I just want to, because you were into this process part, and that's because you need innovation. And the industry has been like innovating in products, like some new products in some way. But the innovation in process is that's what should be moving us forward now. And that we need to do all together, because the process is it's so many parts in the process. So we have to sit down together with the software developers, because they have to understand the process and see, okay, how is the process in 5 years? When we have the digital twin, when everything is possible, when the technology doesn't stop us anymore. And that's what we should do, to sit down and design a new process. And then you can, okay, are the contracts supporting this process? Maybe not. Is the technology supporting the process? No, maybe not. And that's what we need to do, to think process innovation, not just product innovation, I think.
And I completely agree, but then we have to include the users.
Of course.
Because that's that's what the owners should do. We should have buildings that are good for the users, or we don't need the building. So when we do that and we include the users, then maybe the discussion with that ceiling would be different, because the user could have said, I would like to have a higher ceiling because blah, 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 or I would not like to. No. It doesn't really matter then what the architect and the technician says, because it's the kind of the users that need to put their why, and then the owner will say, okay, that gives me value or not.
Involving the user sounds is a very important thing. I totally agree. Yeah, so nobody else had a comment on that? I think there is another aspect with the Lifecycle BIM that is probably getting more and more talked about, but I think it's immensely important. That's to know exactly what kind of material you have in that building that you're tearing down in order to protect the environment and to recycle whatever you can. We recently talked with FC Barcelona, who is they're tearing down a big stadium, and because of money constraint in the club, I mean, they're really sort of focusing on spending as little as possible. They were forced to recycle a huge pile of concrete. And I thought that was really interesting, because normally I hear we can't think about recycling, it's too expensive, blah, 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 or whatever. But they were, because of money constraint, forced to sort of think, what can we do with this pile of concrete that's laying here? If we take it away, it's going to be expensive, but if maybe we can sell it or maybe reuse it somewhere or whatever. So that was like a very interesting sort of idea or whatever, that because of money constraint, they had to recycle. So having all the data in the model, even the data that you need for maintenance and for users, but also knowing exactly what's in there when you're tearing down the building at some point in the future. And maybe you can even say, I got these 10,000 windows, they're in good shape, they were changed 5 years ago, who wants them? Mm-hmm. And you can sell it. Mm-hmm. And then I have these whatever, maybe somebody else wants it, or I have this, can't be used, well, how do I responsibly recycle it?
Mm-hmm. And that's because we are discussing now the circular economy, and I think there will be new business models in this industry because we are the biggest user of raw materials, and a lot of our raw materials in our buildings will be gone. In like 10-15 years, they will be short of natural raw materials. So I think I totally agree. We have to think longer, and we have to. I think it's very interesting to look to the oil construction where we have like the decommissioning phase. You have to have a model for the decommissioning of the construction. If not, you don't get it financed. You don't get the money. And I think that's kind of like we could experiment on that way of thinking as well. And then it's another side of that, and that's that we already have like 70% of the building that we're going to use in 2050. It's already there. So we also need to think on how we get to digitalize the information on the existing buildings and to actually know what we have, because there's a lot of raw materials and there's a lot of climate challenges that we can support.
I also think that all of these solutions, what you mentioned in the problem with the concrete, is about creativity. And it's a very conservative industry, and you need some creative souls that actually thought about that in that particular point of time when they had that problem. But with more information, and if you can spread the information, you have like the creative people have more raw materials to think creative thoughts.
More knowledge too.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and I think that's a big part of the solution in the circular economy. That the more information we have and the more we share about this, we can see that if that solution there, and you would scale it up on a world scale, like how much money is there to make in the world if everyone did that? Would be an interesting number to see.
It's a new business model, Håvard. You can have a fin.no on BIMsync. So you can sell things from the BIM server directly.
It's already in the works.
That's needed. The Netherlands has done a lot with this. They actually have.
A new community?
Yep.
Who do you say?
The Netherlands has done a lot of this. They have a marketplace for used materials, used construction materials.
So they have. Great.
Yes.
That's very good. Something to learn from.
Yep.
There is a final thing that I think is important in a life cycle theme, and it was when you mentioned the oil industry, they sort of track every single piece of, like, let's say, pipe, and they need to know the batch number of the pipe, they need to know the serial number of the pipe, they need to know that this pipe goes there and not there. So they have complete control. And I was thinking, why do we need that for the construction industry? Because now there is no control. You get a bunch of things on the construction site. Nobody checks if you got everything you wanted, and you just put it wherever it fits. But then they say, well, if something happens with the pipe, it cracks or something, you need to know the batch number and where all the other pipes are put in, because you want to remove those and replace them because there's safety problems and whatever. So that's the kind of level that we need to get to in the construction industry as well. You need to know each single item that comes into the construction site. This gypsum plate, serial number X, is put there, not there, but there, and so forth. And that is a huge change for the way it's been done today, I think.
I think that is a part of the logistics, because today the logistics are not digitalized in the construction, I think.
Are there logistics in the construction industry?
Yeah, but I think because we see that now, if you demand, there's a get in ID on every product, and that's kind of like what you ask. If you can put the get in on the product in the model, then you have it. Then you can track it back, and then you also because you need that information to fix the logistics, both out and in, and then you have the information all through the way. And I think that's something we just need to do, and start find solutions on how we can. And that's back again to the process, because the logistics isn't a side process. It's an integrated process of the construction phase, and we have to look at it like that and see, okay, which information do we need to make it an integrated part of the process? And that's a part of that, I think.
Before the summer, we had a workshop in BIM Verdinettverket in Norway. We did exactly that. We connected it from the shop through the whole process into the building, and the door mounted in the wall in the building. The whole process was connected in the model. And again, as I said, it's possible to do it. We need the processes, I agree. We need to define the processes, and we need to do that together, I agree. But again, just let us start doing it. Can we start moving, not only talking? I know things is happening out there, but we need to start, and we can't do it today. But as I say, if we start today, if somebody comes up and say we want to do this in this project, small project, just a easy peasy project, but we will do this in this project, then I'm 100% sure that all of us will be there and help doing this job together with you. But it needs to be an easy peasy project, because if it's a hospital or a new large building, it's not possible, because we need to take it step by step. But we have all the pieces, we have all the Lego pieces that we can use. And we know we have connection, we know we can talk together, we know we can have the information flow going. So just to start.
I'm sorry this is a talk show, but I agree that we need to get started and do stuff. And I totally agree with the easy peasy projects. I mean, there's too often the big owners are thinking big projects, and that's where we're going to do innovation, but that's just way too complicated.
That was the great part of the Gold project that you ran. It was
This is a small project.
It's not a small project, maybe not an easy peasy project, but it's a small project, and it's possible to do things like this because it's a short construction cycle, a short building cycle, so you can manage to do all this innovation you need to do.
And what you need to do is to evaluate and to see, okay, which of these elements can we now put in as best practice? Because that's what we have to learn in this, because we do it some places and someone do it here and someone do it there. And then you think you cannot establish a new best practice before you have tested it all out. But we have to stop with that. We have to put new best practice in on small elements and say, okay, now we demand paperless construction. That's just a little piece, but it's from that project and it's a learning, and we know that it's not complete and it's not total, but it's a way. And we put it in as a best practice as a new experience. So I agree, we have to do this on small project with like a year or so on construction, then we have the learning elements and we can put it back.
Yeah, I just wanted to add again that in order to sell it, in order to upscale it, if the small project works, we need to identify why did we do it? What was the value we expected that to give to the owners? Because otherwise we can't get the necessary financial means to actually to get any further, because it's always easy to do something in a small setting when it comes to commitment and resources and so on. But yeah, we need to define why. And again, I really believe that we need to see it from a user perspective, because that's what we should care about, and it will be a lot easier for us to communicate to the rest of the society if we say this brings values to everyone who's using a building.
But can we agree then that we, after this podcast session, next week,
after the talk,
set up a meeting where we start to define these processes. We start with the end, really the end, talk to the users and start to define this process, because as I said, we need to start. Let's start with that.
That's a good challenge. So what's the answer?
I think we're starting it. I think we started it already.
We have started it, yes.
Very good. Thank you very much for coming and talking about the complex but very important and interesting topic, Lifecycle BIM. I think there was a lot of good points coming out today from you guys. Any final sort of thoughts or maybe concrete advice to our listeners?
I think it's start putting in new demands and testing out and share it and say, okay, now we learned this, we believe in this, we're going to do it all the way, and dare challenge, step ahead.
I agree. Start, just talk,
because
start.
It's there.
How do you start?
I think you have to look into your business or where you are, and you identify a problem. Don't think about BIM or anything. And then, since we're in 2018 and we know where the world is going, probably your issue can be solved with digitization, and probably that will include BIM or Lifecycle BIM.
Well said.
And we haven't talked about it, but every building today, all buildings today, are filled up with sensors. Just start to collect and use this information, because it's already there.
That sounds like almost a new podcast episode. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.